Namanda, 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 Namanda.
Good morning. My name is Junko Nakagawa, and I am the chairperson for today's Dharma family service at Marin Buddhist Temple in Mill Valley. We are a Pure Land temple. We say the name, Namo Amida Butsu, in gratitude for receiving us just as we are and giving us a mind of awakening. Today, our service will be conducted by Sensei CJ Dunford. We will have a moment of quiet sitting meditation, followed by, on the purple service book on page 15, Golden Chain 2.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, 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 Namanda.
If you'd like, please read the Golden Chain 2 with me. I am a link in Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. With our palms together, Gasho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda. We will call to awareness and community chanting. Sensei CJ Dunford will lead us in Junirai on page 27, and then to follow with Sutra Junirai on page 65.
A different bell. Junirai. The Gatha Junirai was written by Nagarjuna, the first of the 7 masters of Jodashinshu. It expresses eloquently the depth of Nagarjuna's gratitude to the Buddha, Amida. Eshu tenin shokugyo Amida senyo sokusom Zai mi meuhan hakok 무료 부시 슈인해요 곤지기 신조녀 센노 샤마타교녀 솔부 료목조냐 쇼렌게 고가 졸라이미다 솜 맨센넨 졸뇨만감 이고윤요센 일지감 쇼뇨텐 그시라 고가 졸라이미라송 감논 졸다이 간치유지 슈주멜 솔홀 솔곰 노브크괴도 마케만 고가 졸라이미라솜 무비무크골쇼조 슈토크케케տն요고그 小沙利悪徳自在고가 초라이 미다솜 지보무오논보사슈 느려쇼мя조삼담 이쇼슈조간이기지 고가 초라이미다솜 곤타이홀캠치쇼캠 젠곤쇼조멜다이사 오히사존요센노 고가 초라이미다소 지본쇼라이쇼르시 겐겐진즈시안라 센고손겐조크교 고가 초라이미다솜 쇼을조르가통 야근요스이갑den요로 이슈세포음묘지 고가 초라이미다솜 이손브셋무아크묘 야금은요니나 그도후 주님 지신 교희솜 고가 초라이미다솜 희손무료호벤교 무쇼슈와 그 지식기 오조후 다이시보다 고가 초라이미다솜 가센 희손 그도그지 슈센무햄요카이스 쇼교그셈곤쇼우조흐샤 에세슈 요쇼히코 나만다부 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 감리시그노그 묘도세이사이 노혼보다이신 오조흐 암나고. Namo Amida Butsu.
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 Namo Amida
Namanda
Butsu.
Butsu. Namanda Namanda Butsu. Namanda Namanda Namanda.
Thank you. I will next have the Hoa, the Dharma talk by Sensei CJ.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start my Dharma message, but first I want to make sure everything's set up okay on Zoom. So give me just a second. Please join me in Gasho as we say the name of the Buddha. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Namanda Namanda. Okay, good morning again. For my Dharma message today, I wanted to talk about the notion of praise from the perspective of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. You might have noticed that we chanted Junirai as part of our service this morning. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about the background and content of Junirai. And to finish my talk today, I hope that we can all read an English translation of this liturgical piece together. Junirai is considered a gatha, which is often translated as a hymn or a poem in English. And as such, it's not a sutra. In Buddhism, we have many sacred texts. One form of sacred text is called a sutra, which is based on the words of Shakyamuni Buddha, who lived in India around 400 or 500 BCE. Indeed, our sacred texts also include commentaries on these sutras and other creative works produced by venerable teachers who expound upon the words of Shakyamuni Buddha. Junirai may not be a sutra, but it is a sacred text, and so chanting it is a form of liturgy in the Jodo Shinshu tradition. The Gatha Junirai was composed by Venerable Nagarjuna, who lived in the 2nd to 3rd century BCE in India, just a couple of hundred years after Buddha died. On this slide, you can see a painting depicting Master Nagarjuna, and you might notice that he's surrounded by snakes. According to legend, Venerable Nagarjuna was given important teachings from Shakyamuni Buddha by Nagas, or snake spirits, who are tasked with protecting these teachings under the ocean until after Shakyamuni Buddha's passing. In Indian mythology, Nagas are often associated with arhats and people who are very wise. So this is why you'll often see Venerable Nagarjuna portrayed with snakes. I personally like snakes, and I really like art, especially Buddhist art. So these little details and symbols are fascinating to me. So I just wanted to share that little bit of information. Continuing along, Venerable Nagarjuna is venerated in many lineages of Buddhism and is credited with establishing Madhyamika philosophy that's often described as the fundamental wisdom of the middle way. In the Shoshinge, our founder, Master Shinran, states that, quote, Shakyamuni Tathagata on Mount Lanka prophesied to the multitudes that in South India, the Mahasattva Nagarjuna would appear in the world to crush the views of being and non-being. Madhyamika philosophy is often discussed in terms of moderation, taking the middle path between extremes. But very specifically, in terms of Buddhist philosophy, Venerable Nagarjuna critiqued notions of essentialism, that everything has a pure essence at its very core, even animals, people, and ideas. He also critiqued the idea of nihilism, that reality is completely an illusion and nothing actually exists. In, quote, crushing the views of being and non-being, Master Nagarjuna advocated for a middle path between those extremes. And in that path lie the philosophies of Praticca Samutpada and Shunyata, which are commonly translated as dependent origination and emptiness. We often discuss these teachings as interdependence in the temple to keep things more simple. These are teachings that we can find in virtually all lineages of Mahayana Buddhism and Vajrayana Buddhism. All this is to say that Master Nagarjuna is a foundational figure in Buddhisms around the world. Very specifically, the Gatha that we chanted today, Junirai, is attributed to Venerable Nagarjuna, who, in addition to his many accolades around the fundamental wisdom of the middle way, advocated for the Pure Land practice of Nembutsu, contemplating or saying the name of Amida Buddha, Namo Amida Butsu, as we do in our lineage. He advocated for Nembutsu as, quote, easy practice because it was accessible, meaning that virtually anyone could do it. It's believed that in our tradition, Master Nagarjuna was so impressed with the approachability of this practice of Nembutsu within the Pure Land Buddhism that he himself was a devoted practicer of Nembutsu. As a way of expressing his gratitude to this path, this Buddhist practice, Venerable Nagarjuna wrote Junirai as an expression of his deep gratitude for this teaching. You see, understanding Junirai in this way is an important way for us to comprehend the uniqueness of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism. Very broadly speaking, in Buddhism, we gather together as a Sangha to chant sutras in order to generate merit, so that we can transfer that merit to all sentient beings. However, in our lineage, We are incapable of generating our own merit. Rather, we are the recipients of the merit of the directed virtues of Amida Buddha. Just like when someone offers us food or gives us a welcome gift, we respond by saying thank you. Our expression of practice is to say thank you to Buddha for guidance via the Buddha Dharma, the teachings, and our companionship in the Sangha. When I was trained as a priest, we learned many complex forms of ritual and chanting that we don't often do here at temples in the United States. Sometimes I felt discouraged or even frustrated during those times of training, but my teacher explained that we put so much effort in taking and learning these forms, these rituals and various liturgies, because when we perform them, we are expressing our praise for the virtues of Amida Buddha. We're saying thank you. In a metaphysical sense, these virtues are beyond our comprehension. They're tied to ultimate reality, to nirvana, and our final liberation. However, from a very practical sense, the virtues of Buddha manifest in our everyday lives as well. The support and love of others, the sunshine that warms the earth, the water and the food that give us life. When we chant, we are expressing our thanks for all of these things. And our hope is that others are able to share in this appreciation for all that we have been given, for all that's been made possible for us to live the lives that we currently have. And so in praising the virtues of the Buddha, I'd like to invite us to read this English translation of Junirai together. Just a quick note though, this is a kind of a new translation that I've cobbled together. It's based on a combination of two previous translations, one from the Shin Buddhist Seiten, which is published by the Buddhist Churches of America, or BCA, in 1978. It's the one in our Purple Service Book. And the other is from the Jodo Shinshu Service Book published by Honpa Honganji Hawaii in 1986. So both of these translations are a bit dated. One's 40 and one's 50 years old. So I attempted to update some of the language to be a bit more inclusive where there were glaring problems. The BCA version attempts to be more literal in its content based on the Chinese original, and the Hawaii version is more lyrical in the way that it's translated to be more like a poem. I took the liberty of combining them both in places to hopefully make it sound a little bit more clear and relevant for the year 2022. But it would be really nice to have a new translation by someone who's more fluent in reading Chinese than I am, which is mostly just me using several dictionaries and switching between Chinese, Japanese, and English. Without further ado, let's read Junirai's translation together. Before Amida Buddha, whom gods and humans worship, I humble myself in deepest reverence. In Buddha's wonderful Pure Land, bodhisattvas gather around. Golden form like the king of Mount Sumeru, steadfast like the elephant's pace. Buddha's eyes like the blue lotus. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Buddha's countenance round like the moon, bright like thousands of suns and moons, voice as heavenly drum, yet like the kolika bird. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Buddha's figure on Avalokiteshvara's crown, adorned with wondrous features. Buddha subdues demons and fiends. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Beyond compare, Amida's pure virtues, shining clear like space, actively freely benefiting all. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, Maras and demons too, praise Amida, dwelling in the power of the vow for all beings. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Golden ponds where lotus bloom, towers a throne of goodness. Buddha lives like the king of Mount Sumeru. Thus I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Bodhisattvas come from the 10 directions, attaining true happiness in that land. They revere the Buddha's face and offer homage. Thus, I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. All things are transient, without self, like the moon on water, lighting, shade, or dew. The Dharma cannot be expressed by words, Buddha teaches. Thus, I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. No words of evil in the Pure Land, and no fear of evildoers or paths. Faithful hearts honor Buddha. Thus, I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Amida's land of expediences is without tempters and evil beings. Birth here leads to enlightenment. Thus, I prostrate myself before Amida Buddha. Thus have I praised the virtues of Amida Buddha, which are boundless, like the waters of the sea. Upon receiving these pure and good qualities, may all beings be born into that land. Namo Amida Butsu. 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 With that, I'd like to conclude my Dharma message. I've been thinking a lot about the notion of praise, of saying thank you, and thinking about what that means. Because I grew up in a very interesting Christian church where praise and worship was a very different kind of thing. And so I hope you enjoyed my reflections on Junirai today, and I'm glad you all came to chant with us and to be with us in the Sangha. I'm going to light a piece of charcoal so you can offer incense. But before I do that, are there any announcements?
Thank you. Next Sunday, there will be no service on the 25th. And on January 1st, we will have service at 10 o'clock in the morning. So I hope you'll be able to join us or join us by Zoom. Thank you.